Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of El Cafecito. Today we have Dr. John Eusebio Klingemann. He is the Dean of the College of Arts and Humanities and also a professor in history. And today we are going to be asking him 35 questions just to get to know him a little bit more this morning. So we're going to go ahead and jump in right to the questions. My name is Cody Vasquez, a Student Activities Manager, and I'm also with Sonia Delgado, a Student Assistant from the Multicultural and Student Activities Programs Office. All right, so for the first question, we say, how are you doing this morning?
I like those easy questions. I'm doing really well, thank you, and I appreciate you having me on.
Cool. So what's the best career advice you've ever received, and how about the worst?
Oh man, no easy questions. We're just going to start off with that one. Okay, all right, I like it. Well, you receive advice from anybody and everybody as you're going through your career, and some of the best advice I ever had was just to get out of my comfort zone and to really go for it. You only get one chance at life. And
Mhm.
with that also comes advice. People always, well, they should look out for your best interests. But, I've had to tell people, people tell me, well, you're doing really well. Why do you want to change? So, you have to take everything with a grain of salt and understand that ultimately the decision should be yours.
Cool. What fictional character do you identify with the most?
Goodness, I like that question, because I'm an English minor, so there's a lot of literature out there that I've read, but I'm also a history professor. And so, you know, I, well, one of my favorite books is Tom Sawyer, right? And Huckleberry Finn. And I don't know that I necessarily identify with them, but maybe on some levels I do, because every time I've read that book at different stages, and both of those books at different stages in my life, I've gotten different messages. And so that's probably the best way for me to answer that question, is there's just probably a lot of fictional characters that I identify with.
Ooh. Are there any apps on your phone that you can't live without?
Oh, come on, Facebook. That's definitely one. I would say another one is, Messenger, for sure.
Mhm.
That's just a way, especially now, that's a way that we just keep in touch with so many different people. Although I got to say, your generation just takes it to a whole nother level. I don't know that I'm a big fan of Snapchat or some of the other apps that you guys have on your phones, but definitely Facebook.
And what would you consider is ASU or San Angelo's best hidden gem?
Well, I think for ASU, it's definitely the West Texas collection, because there's such a wealth of information there. And, they have a wonderful staff over there that can really help you with any research project. But there's just so much information about this area that can really provide for us a good image of what historically took place in this area. As far as San Angelo, I think there's several of them. I don't know that it's a hidden gem, but I love the Azteca Market. Who doesn't? That's a great place to go shopping. They actually have great food there as well.
Mhm. You're on mute, Sonia. See, that can be cut out.
You might have to edit that one.
I know. Maybe, yeah, I'm sorry. Okay.
Just leave it.
Yeah. Let's jump into the deep questions. My first question is, who's your biggest inspiration?
Oh, wait, now we're getting into the deep questions? Okay. Well, for the longest time, it was certainly my parents, my grandparents, but, in light of everything that has taken place now, it definitely has to be my sister, because she's a nurse, and everything that we're going through at this moment, I look up to her, because every morning she gets up and she makes a difference in the San Angelo area. She's employed here by one of the hospitals. And so I would have to say right now, my biggest inspiration is definitely my sister.
Definitely a good choice. Okay, 30-second challenge. How did you develop a passion for what you teach?
Well, that means I have to answer in 30 seconds. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, more or less.
Well, I've loved history, my entire life. I've always loved history. I'm the student in class that tended to answer the teacher's questions about history. I'll never forget, one of the teachers in the high school level said, well, who actually framed well, it was a historical question, and I answered it in class, right? So that developed into a passion for teaching. And I consider myself the luckiest person because I'm able to wake up every day and work in an area that I absolutely love, and that's history. And I'm able to help young individuals, young students, students of all ages get to that point where they achieve their educational goals.
That's awesome. Okay, next question. What was the must-have accessory or item when you were growing up that you should have?
Come
Except
on,
that
you guys copy it anyway. It's the Jordan shoes. How many times have I seen your generation wearing the shoes that were they're the exact same shoes from my generation?
Really?
Yes, same design. I bet if I went back to my parents' house and looked in the closet, I could probably dig some out. Start wearing it around. People would say, wow, he's really up to date on his fashion.
Yeah, I guess good things never go out of style.
Nope.
What is the most out of character thing you have ever done?
I thought that I could actually be a part of Ballet Folklorico at my undergraduate institution. Wasn't happening.
Didn't work. Okay, describe yourself to us in 3 words.
Dedicated, ambitious, and loyal.
Love that. Sounds like Ram Pam.
That's right.
All right, next question. If you were in charge of picking the 8th wonder of the world, what would you choose?
Without a doubt, Terlingua, Texas, the place where I grew up on the U.S.-Mexico border, because it's a beautiful spot out in the desert. It's clean. I think it's an 8th wonder of the world.
Nice. What is the best advice you have specifically for first-generation students?
You know, you belong here just as much as everybody else. Follow your dreams. Follow your heart. Everything is there for you to succeed. You just have to reach out there and take advantage of it. And there's a lot of folks on this campus that are dedicated to your passions and to your dream of achieving an education. And we're here to help.
Very nice. Next question. What do you wish you had placed in a time capsule 15 years ago?
Besides a pair of Jordans? Well, I'll have to take the selfish approach on this one and say that I wish I back then would have typed out a statement, maybe a paragraph long, maybe a page long, of where I thought I would be in 15 years so that I could compare. How much of that have I achieved? How much do I still have to achieve? But I'd like to see what that person 15 years ago thought as to the direction that I was taking at that point in time.
That's cool. I might have to take that idea myself. So 30-second challenge. In your experience, what aspect of history does not get the attention it needs?
Oh, you're asking a historian and you're giving me 30 seconds to answer that question? What part of this is fair? Okay. You know, regional studies, because there's so much to be learned about the different cultures, the regionalisms that exist all across the Western Hemisphere, all across the globe.
Mm-hmm.
What is it about the Mexican-American experience in San Angelo, for instance, that is so unique? The experience of ranchers, the people that were the sheep shearers. You know, regional studies like that can really illuminate so much about our past. Because a lot of times we tend to focus on the much bigger histories, the national histories, the state histories.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, it's also about the individual experience, and regional studies can highlight that individual experience.
That's nice. All right, next question. What is the strangest compliment you've ever received?
What do you think of the Chartwell snack bar, Dr. Flores? Or how's your coffee, Mr. Munoz? Definitely, yeah, those two.
Okay, another deep question from me. Sorry, they don't stop. What is the most important truth? What is the most important, truth or happiness?
Truth. You always know where you stand.
Right. What is your biggest phobia?
Ooh, ghosts. I can't watch La Llorona. I would never watch La Llorona.
I don't know what that is, but it sounds scary already.
You'll have to ask Cody about it later on. He'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay, Cody, I'll ask you later.
Okay.
What's the best advice you have for students who are just learning, manage their budgets?
Their budget? You know, take an accounting class. or, watch someone that you are very familiar with work through a budget, because in the end, you don't ever want to fall into debt. I mean, you really want to avoid that early on in your life. And so if you learn how to manage your budget, how to manage your spending, and I understand it's easier said than done. Again, you got to go get those new Jordans, and they're going to be expensive. But really learn how to manage your budget, take an accounting class, and understand that if you get in debt, it can be hard to get out of
Right. Just learn how to be responsible.
Yep.
Do you have any tips for beating boredom during this time?
that. Have a virtual dinner with friends on Skype or, Zoom or WebEx. Go pick out that favorite book that you've always wanted to read. Paint, do ceramics, right? Learn how to do pottery, do ceramics. Learn how to, there's more to playing the PS4 is my whole point, right? Maybe there's time to, get into a hobby or a craft that you're passionate about, but there's also time to explore. Beyond watching all 6 seasons of Downton Abbey and then the movie afterwards, there's more to it than that.
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that. I definitely have a few canvases on my floor. They just are ready to be painted on. But yeah,
Go.
taking that advice. Yes.
Go.
What is something you think everyone should do at least once in their life?
One thing, gosh, I can think of many, many things. Go to an Indian village in Oaxaca and live there for a month. Go skydiving.
Yeah.
Throw a bowl, right, which is ceramics. Go scuba diving. I think there's so much to do. Go see the Aztec pyramids. Go stand on top of the Sun Pyramid and look out over the valley. There's so much. Enjoy life.
All right, so I got some more funner questions now. So pancakes or waffles?
There's nothing better than pancakes with a little bit of butter, yeah, pancakes. Syrup, good syrup, yeah.
Definitely. Does your family have any secret or famous recipes?
So I actually, before my abuelita passed away, I actually spent a lot, because I love to cook. And I spent a lot of time with her in the kitchen learning some of her recipes. And, those will be with me my entire life. And I miss her every day, but she left with me these recipes that I learned without writing them down that, they'll be with me my whole life. When I lived in Oaxaca, I spent some time doing research in Oaxaca, which is a southern state in Mexico. I paid $40 to cook at a restaurant. And so we went to the market at 5 a.m, picked out all of the groceries that we needed, all of the produce, you name it. Went back and I spent the entire day learning regional Oaxacan cuisine. And I learned how to make mole from scratch, for instance. I learned how to make different salsas, different soups. And to this day, I think that's the best $40 I've ever spent. But wait, there's more to the story. Because of political violence, the restaurant owner and her husband had to move. And guess where they moved? Now, this was years ago. This was more than 10 years ago when I was in Oaxaca. They moved to Austin, Texas.
Oh, wow.
So last year, I walked into her restaurant and she remembered me. And we had a great conversation about that day I spent in her restaurant. Yep.
Wow, that sounds really good. That's a really good story connected to it. So if you had a time machine, what would you visit, the past or the future?
Again, you're asking a historian, Cody. I mean, come on.
Yeah.
Go into the past. I mean, just good Lord, there's a lot of different eras that I would love to go visit. Based on a lot of the books that I've read from historians of Latin America, I would want to go back and be in those events that they so richly described, because they pulled all of that information out of, sources.
Ooh, I really like your passion for like history. It's really
Oh,
inspiring.
I love it. History can tell you who you are, where you came from,
Yeah.
even where you're going.
Ooh.
You'd have to ask Manuel Campos that story. You know, Mr. Campos, he could answer that for you.
All right, next question. What's the last movie that made you cry or laugh out loud?
I don't know that it made me cry or laugh, but I definitely was. I pondered so much about that movie after I watched it, and that was 1917. Great movie. If you haven't seen it yet, I'd encourage you to go watch it.
Ooh. So what mystery do you wish you had the answer to?
Mystery? You mean besides Jack the Ripper, the JFK assassination? I don't know. There's so many of them. You know, I think if I'm just thinking off the top of my head, it would definitely have to be because of I'm a historian and I wrote my dissertation on Pancho Villa, the División del Norte, which was the army that he commanded.
Mhm.
And I think for me, the biggest mystery would then be, you know, why was he assassinated in 1923? What was the definite answer behind that assassination?
Ooh.
Okay, my turn. Truth or dare?
Let's go with truth.
Okay, the safe one. What is one thing you would never do, even if someone offered you all the money in the world?
That's a lot of money. And I would have to just say that I would never put anybody's life in danger, including my own.
Right. Very smart. I like it. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Ooh, oh, what a great question. Well, you know, I'm from a small town in West Texas. And so there's, because I love cooking so much, maybe being a chef, right, in a major restaurant, or a coach. I have a lot of respect for
For,
coaches. It's a tough job, and
right.
but I would have, yeah, being a coach, chef or a coach, right? That's how I feel right now. Maybe tomorrow I'll wake up and say, oh, I wish I would have done this or I would have done that. But at this moment, that's what I'm doing.
Right. Okay, we'll take it. What's your motto or philosophy for life?
You know, that's changed since I was in high school, college, my first job. And today it has to be, given the circumstances, be flexible. Be flexible and understanding and compassionate.
Yeah. In 3 words or less, what would be the worst thing to hear as you are going under anesthesia before surgery?
Just one? Oh, there's so many of them. Don't go there.
Right.
Why me? When's lunch? Are you hungover? There's so many of them. I mean, I wouldn't want to. There's so many of them I wouldn't want to hear.
Yeah, there are more than one for sure. Um, my last question is, if someone narrated your life, who would you want to be the narrator?
Well, there would have to be two of them. It would have to be Manuel Campos and Dr. Javier Flores. It would have to be those two individuals.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I think they
I'd
would.
want to watch that.
Oh, I think they would do a great
That's
job. I have no doubt in my
yeah, it sounds entertaining already.
All right, so for the last 5 questions,
mind.
if animals could talk, which animal do you think would have the best advice to offer?
Oh, are you kidding? I would love to have a conversation with the cats that live in our alley. Oh man, that conversation lasts forever.
Oh, that's funny. So what life skills are rarely taught but extremely useful?
Using your hands. Never understood why. I mean, be a mechanic, be a carpenter. There's so many things that you can do, but skills of having the ability to use your hands. I think that that's essential. Of course, communication skills,
Mhm.
but using your hands.
Cool. So when was a time you acted nonchalant but were going crazy inside?
Oh, probably the time that I proposed to my wife in the airport in El Paso, and she accepted. She met me back then. You could actually walk in a lot further than you can now. And as I walked down the ramp, I got down on one knee and then I proposed to her. And of course, she said yes. And so inside, I was screaming, but played it cool the whole time.
That sounds like a good story. So what brand are you most loyal to?
What do you mean by brand? I need a little bit more information here. You know, you're throwing these questions at me, and so I need a little bit more information here.
It can be like a brand of like clothing, like Nike or Under Armour, anything like that.
Huh. That's changed, you know, as I got older. Of course, Nike, I was no different than any other teenager. And then, of course, Polo, you know, I went through that phase. And today, probably, I would say Brooks Brothers.
Cool. All right, so our last question. So who do you think we should invite next week for El Cafecito's 35 questions?
I don't know if you haven't, you know, actually interviewed him yet or not, but I would say you'd have to go and get Don Jose Munoz, Mr. Joe Munoz, and see if he would be amenable to doing an interview.
Yeah, he would definitely
I'd like to hear the interview myself.
Yeah.
You know, well, if there's anything I'd like to share is, again, going back to the first generation student question, and that is to always pursue your dreams and don't ever be afraid to put yourself out there. You know, I had to ride a bus from Terlingua to Alpine, where I attended high school, and it was an 80-mile trip one way. And I woke up at 4:30 in the morning, and by 5:30 I was on the bus, and we would arrive on the campus of Alpine at 7:30. And I never let that become an excuse for me to drop out of high school or to not pursue my dreams. I did anyway, even though I had those obstacles. And so if I can do it, certainly you can do it as well.
Right. That's really inspiring. Thank you for sharing that with us.
Yeah, of course. My pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Angela State, well, thank you for coming to see us on El Cafecito this morning. Join back with us on the next Cafecito episode. We'll see you later. Bye.
Tonya,
I'm sorry, Aaron.
you have a last name like Delgado and you don't know about La Llorona?
Yeah. My parents are from Peru, so if that's a Mexican movie, like, it's probably why. I don't know a lot about Mexican culture.
It's
the myth, what?
The myth of the crying woman. It comes from our Aztec ancestors, that there's a woman who launched her kids into the river and drowned them, and she looked for them at night. And so it's a tale that mothers use to make their children behave.
Oh, wow. That's really cool.
I did a movie on it too, La Llorona. And so the whole ghost thing goes back to my undergraduate days when I lived in a dormitory that was supposedly haunted. And one evening when I came in, there was a woman standing at the end of the hallway in front of the window. And I looked, and she was wearing an orange sweater, blue jeans, and hush puppies, literally hush puppies. That's interesting. So the next day I saw my buddy, the RA, Edgar Gonzalez, and I said, Edgar, what's going on, man? You're losing, you know, your abilities to keep the dorm separated because women lived on the third floor and men on the second floor.
Oh, yeah.
And he said, there was no females on the second floor last night. And I said, yeah, but I saw this young lady, you know, and I described her to him, and he just freaked out. Dude, you saw Beverly. And I said, no, I didn't.
Oh, that's
So
crazy.
we went to the library and looked her up in the annual, and I almost fainted when I saw her image, because that's what it looked like. And I had never seen an image of her.